Admiral stood before the massive viewing screen in his command ship. His red eyes studied the star charts that covered the dark metal wall. Green dots marked successful raids. Yellow dots showed potential targets. Red dots meant danger zones to avoid. The green dots outnumbered everything else by hundreds. "Sir, the intelligence report on the new species is ready," said his second-in-command, officer. Turned around. His tall, thin frame cast long shadows across the bridge. The other officers watched him with respect and fear. For 20 years, he had led the most successful raiding fleet in 3 star systems. "Show me," said. The main screen changed to display information about something called Terrans or humans. The data looked typical for a new spacefaring race. Small ships, basic weapons, no major military presence in space. "They started trading with other species only 6 months ago," explained. "Their ships carry valuable materials, rare earth metals, quantum processors, the kind of cargo that sells well on the black market." Nodded. He had seen this pattern many times before. New species always followed the same path. First, they built simple ships for exploration. Then they started trading. Finally, they learned the hard way that space was not safe for the weak. "How many ships do they have?" asked. "Our spies count maybe 50 vessels total. Most are tiny cargo haulers. Only 1 or 2 could be called warships, and even those are small." "Weapons?" "Basic laser arrays, simple kinetic guns, nothing that could threaten our destroyers." Smiled, showing his sharp teeth. They had evolved as predators on there. That instinct had served them well in space. Other species tried to build peaceful trading networks. They took what they wanted. "What about their behavior patterns?" asked. "Do they fight or surrender?" Checked his data pad. "Unknown, sir. They have not been attacked yet, but look at their trading partners." The screen showed a list of species. Recognized them all. The scholarly, who always surrendered immediately. The peaceful Moravians, who paid tribute to avoid conflict. The merchant, who calculated that losing cargo cost less than fighting. "All sheep," said with disgust. "The humans must be the same. They would not trade with warriors." Around the bridge, other officers nodded in agreement. The logic was simple. Strong species fought each other. Weak species traded and built alliances. The humans clearly belonged to the second group. "Sir," another officer spoke up, "what if they are different? What if they fight back?" Turned to face the younger. "Lieutenant, how many species have we raided in the past 5 years?" 47, sir." "And how many chose to fight instead of surrender?" Thought for a moment. 3, sir." "Correct. And what happened to those 3 species?" "We destroyed their ships and took their cargo anyway, sir." "Exactly." Walked to the center of the bridge. "Fighting only makes things worse for them. They lose their cargo and their lives. Smart species learn to surrender." The bridge fell silent. Reputation was built on these simple facts. They always won. Always. Their ships were stronger. Their weapons were better. Their crews were experienced killers. "Show me their cargo manifests," ordered. The screen changed again. It displayed the inventory of a human ship called Terra's Pride. The numbers made several officers whistle with appreciation. Tons of rare metals, advanced computer cores, medical supplies, energy cells. "The total value?" asked. 8 million credits, sir. Maybe more on the right markets." Felt the familiar excitement of a hunt beginning. 8 million credits would pay for ship repairs, new weapons, and bonuses for the crew. It would also send a message to the humans about the cost of traveling through territory. "Where is this Terra's Pride now?" he asked. "Heading through the Hadron Drift, sir. They will reach the navigation waypoint in 6 hours." Perfect. The Hadron Drift was a nebula-filled region where many ships stopped to recalibrate their navigation systems. The gas clouds provided excellent cover for ambushes. Had used the location dozens of times before. "Prepare 3 destroyers," he ordered. We will intercept them at waypoint 7. Sir asked, is 3 ships necessary? The human vessel appears to be a simple cargo hauler. Considered the question. 3 destroyers was massive overkill for a single merchant ship, but that was the point. They had learned that overwhelming force led to quick surrenders. Quick surrenders meant less damage to valuable cargo. Better to use too much force than too little, said. Besides, we want to make a good first impression on these humans. The officers laughed at that. Making a good first impression meant showing the humans exactly how hopeless resistance would be. Most species learned the lesson immediately. The smart ones spread the word to their governments. Soon, entire trade routes would pay tribute to avoid attention. What about their government? Asked. Will they send warships to investigate? Let them come, replied. We have dealt with government response fleets before. They usually back down when they see what happened to their merchants. This was true. Most species valued their military ships too much to risk them in rescue missions. They would file complaints with galactic trading authorities. They would demand investigations, but they would not fight. Sir, all ships report ready for departure, the communications officer announced. Returned to his command chair. The massive metal seat had been built for his predecessor, who had died in a rare moment of carelessness, had learned from that mistake. He never took chances with unknown enemies. But humans were not unknown. The intelligence report made them sound like every other peaceful trading species. Weak ships, basic weapons, no stomach for real fighting. Set course for the Hadron Drift, commanded. Maximum speed. The bridge hummed with activity as his crew prepared for another routine raid. They had done this so many times that it felt automatic. Jump to the ambush point. Surround the target. Demand surrender. Collect the cargo. Smiled as he watched the star charts update. In a few hours, the humans would learn their first lesson about traveling through dangerous space. They would surrender their cargo and spread word about strength. It would be quick, it would be profitable, and it would be exactly like every other raid. The 3 destroyers jumped to hyperspace, carrying their crews toward what they believed would be an easy victory. Captain Sarah sat in the command chair of the Terra's Pride, watching her crew work at their stations. To any outside observer, they looked like typical merchant sailors. Their uniforms were worn and practical. Their movements seemed relaxed and casual. But Sarah knew better. Every person on her bridge was a combat veteran from humanity's recent colonial wars. The engineer, adjusting power levels, was actually Lieutenant Commander, who had destroyed 3 pirate bases in the Tau system. The communications officer, monitoring radio traffic, was Sergeant, a former Special Forces operative. Captain said in a calm voice, we have 3 ships approaching from different vectors, large signatures, military class. Sarah nodded, time to intercept. 12 minutes at current speed. Analysis. Chief Petty Officer, who was pretending to monitor cargo systems, looked up from his console. Design, Captain, 3 destroyers, standard raider formation. Sarah felt a familiar coldness settle over her mind. The same feeling she had experienced before every major engagement during the war. Her crew called it her hunting face. Signal the engine room, she ordered. Tell them to start the show. Down in engineering, the real crew began preparing systems that did not appear on any public inspection records. Hidden weapon arrays powered up behind false cargo bay walls. Military-grade shields initialized under civilian power signatures. The antimatter torpedo tubes, disguised as simple storage containers, armed themselves quietly. Captain reported, all systems ready. We are fully operational. Outstanding. Patch me through to Fleet Command. Priority Alpha. Channel open, Captain. Sarah spoke clearly into her headset. Fleet Command, this is Terra's Pride. We have 3 destroyers closing for intercept. Looks like someone took our bait. Admiral's voice came through the encrypted channel. Confirmed, Terra's pride. You are authorized to proceed as planned. Give them hell. Understood, sir, Terra's pride out. Sarah turned to her crew. These men and women had volunteered for one of the most dangerous missions in human space. They could have stayed safe on Earth or the colonies. Instead, they had chosen to put themselves in harm's way to protect human commerce. People, Sarah announced, today we find out if our intelligence about tactics is accurate. Remember, we need them to get close enough to be sure they are hostile. No shooting until they make their intentions clear. Yes, Captain, the crew responded in unison. On the main screen, 3 massive ships appeared. The destroyers looked exactly like the intelligence reports had described them. Dark metal hulls, multiple weapon ports, designs built for intimidation as much as combat. The lead ship opened a communication channel. Sarah nodded too, who accepted the transmission. The alien face that appeared on screen was typical: red eyes, sharp teeth, skin that looked like dark leather. Admiral stared at the human crew with obvious contempt. "Human vessel Terra's pride," said in accented but clear English. "You are now the property of the Syndicate. Shut down your engines and prepare for boarding. Comply immediately and your crew will be spared." Sarah looked around at her bridge crew. Several of them were trying not to smile. After months of preparation, the moment had finally arrived. "Vessel," Sarah replied, "we are a peaceful merchant ship in neutral space. You have no authority here." His expression did not change. "Authority comes from strength, human. You will see our strength now." The screen changed to show recordings of other ships being destroyed, species after species surrendering to demands. The alien admiral clearly expected these images to terrify the humans into submission. Sarah watched the recordings with professional interest. The tactics were exactly as predicted: overwhelming force, psychological pressure, quick boarding actions. It had worked against dozens of other species. "Impressive," Sarah said when the recordings finished. "You have certainly conquered many cargo haulers and research vessels." Something in her tone made frown. "This is not a negotiation, human. Surrender now or be destroyed." "I need to consult with my crew," Sarah replied. "Give us 5 minutes to discuss this." Laughed, "Very well, but do not attempt to flee. Our ships are faster than anything you possess." The communication channel closed. Sarah looked around at her bridge crew. "Well," she asked. "They are moving into standard boarding formation," reported. "Close approach from 3 sides, just like the intelligence briefings predicted." "Perfect. How long until they are in optimal range?" 3 minutes, Captain." Sarah opened an internal communication channel to address her entire crew. "All hands, this is the captain. Our new friends have just threatened to board our ship and steal our cargo. I find this behavior rude and unacceptable. Prepare to teach them some manners." Throughout the ship, men and women who had spent months pretending to be civilian merchants began final preparations for combat. Weapon systems that had been carefully hidden came online. Battle armor was retrieved from secret storage compartments. Marines took position near the fake cargo containers that would soon reveal themselves as missile tubes. "Captain," reported, "the ships are now within perfect range. All systems show green." Sarah opened the channel to Admiral again. The alien commander appeared on screen, clearly expecting to see a defeated human ready to surrender. "Admiral," Sarah said with a pleasant smile, "I have consulted with my crew. We have reached a unanimous decision." "Excellent, you will surrender." "No," Sarah's smile became predatory. "We have decided that you picked the wrong ship, wrong species, and wrong day." His confident expression faltered. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Sarah said, settling back in her command chair, "that you are about to learn why humans do not make good prey." The communication channel closed. Sarah looked at her weapons officer. "Mister, you may fire when ready." Around the Terra's Pride, hidden panels slid open to reveal the true nature of the human vessel. What they had thought was a helpless cargo hauler transformed into something else entirely. Advanced point defense systems emerged from concealed positions. Military-grade sensor arrays powered up and immediately locked onto all three enemy ships. Most importantly, the cargo containers on the ship's outer hull opened to reveal their true contents. "Torpedo tubes armed and ready, Captain," reported with satisfaction. "Fire." The first destroyer died in exactly 4 seconds. Admiral watched in horror as antimatter torpedoes slammed into his furthest ship. The vessel's shields flared bright blue for an instant before collapsing completely. The torpedoes punched through the hull like it was made of paper. "Impossible," whispered. The destroyer exploded in a ball of white fire. Pieces of metal and atmosphere scattered in all directions. 300 warriors died without even understanding what had killed them. "Sir," his tactical officer shouted, "the human ship is showing massive energy signatures. Those are military-grade weapons." Stared at the Terra's Pride in disbelief. The innocent-looking cargo hauler had transformed into something completely different. Weapon ports glowed along its hull. Armor plating extended from hidden compartments. The ship's power signature showed levels that should have been impossible for a merchant vessel. "Return fire," ordered, "all weapons." His remaining 2 destroyers opened fire with everything they had. Plasma bolts and kinetic projectiles raced toward the human ship. For a moment, hope that his superior firepower would end this nightmare quickly. The Terra's Pride absorbed the attack without any visible damage. "Sir," the tactical officer reported in a shaking voice, "their shields are holding. Our weapons are not penetrating." "That is impossible. We are using military-grade plasma cannons." "The readings do not lie, sir. Their defensive systems are far more advanced than our intelligence suggested." Captain Sarah watched the attack with professional interest. The alien weapons were powerful but poorly coordinated. Their plasma bolts spread their damage across too wide an area instead of focusing on specific shield sections. "Damage report," she requested. "Shields at 94%, Captain," replied. "Their weapons are impressive but inefficient." "Excellent. Target the second destroyer. Full spread." "Aye, Captain. Firing." 6 torpedoes launched from the Terra's Pride. The destroyer tried to evade, but human targeting computers had already calculated every possible escape route. The torpedoes adjusted course automatically, tracking their target with perfect precision. This time was able to watch the destruction more carefully. The human weapons did not just explode against his ship's hull. They penetrated deep into the destroyer's structure before detonating. The entire vessel was torn apart from the inside. "Admiral," his communication officer called, "Captain is requesting permission to retreat." Looked at his last remaining ship. Captain was young but intelligent. If he wanted to retreat, he had probably realized the same terrible truth that was becoming clear too. They were not hunting prey. They had encountered a predator. "Granted," shouted, "all ships retreat immediately." The remaining destroyers turned away from the Terra's Pride and began accelerating toward the edge of the star system. Their crews were experienced raiders, but they had never been in a situation like this before. Usually, they were the ones with superior firepower. Usually, they were the ones delivering overwhelming force. "Captain," reported with a smile, "the remaining vessels are attempting to flee." Sarah looked at the tactical display. The alien ships were fast, but not fast enough. The Terra's Pride had been built using the latest human technology. Its engines were more advanced than anything they had ever encountered. "Pursuit course," Sarah ordered. "Do not let them escape." The Terra's Pride changed direction and began chasing the fleeing ships. The human vessel moved with a grace and speed that its apparent size. Within minutes, it was gaining on the alien destroyers. Admiral watched his tactical display with growing panic. How fast are they? Faster than us, sir. They will catch us in 8 minutes. Had spent his entire life believing that ships were the finest in the galaxy. His destroyers could outrun any merchant vessel and overpower any escort ship. The idea that this human cargo hauler could outfight and outrun his entire force seemed impossible. Split formation, he ordered. Force them to choose between targets. The two remaining ships separated, heading in different directions. It was a desperate tactic, but hoped it might allow one ship to escape and report what had happened. Captain watched the alien ships divide their forces. "Which one first, Captain?" asked. "The one with their admiral," Sarah replied. "His ship has the stronger power signature." The Terra's Pride pursued its flagship with single-minded determination. The human ship closed the distance steadily, ignoring the other fleeing destroyer entirely. "Sir," tactical officer reported, "they are gaining weapons lock." Evasive maneuvers. The destroyer began a series of desperate turns and acceleration changes. Through his ship, through every evasive pattern he had learned in 20 years of raiding, nothing worked. The human ship matched every movement with mechanical precision. "Torpedo lock acquired," announced. "Fire," Sarah said calmly. The antimatter torpedo streaked across space towards ship. The Admiral watched death approaching and realized he had made the greatest mistake of his career. These humans were not like any species he had encountered. They did not fight with honor or follow the traditional rules of space combat. They had set a trap and waited for him to walk into it. They had disguised a warship as a merchant vessel. They fought like predators, not prey. The torpedo struck ship just as he was reaching for the communication system to broadcast a warning to other fleets. The explosion vaporized the bridge and everyone on it. Sarah watched the Admiral's ship disappear in a brief flash of light. "One more," she said. The Terra's Pride turned toward the last fleeing destroyer. Captain's ship had gained some distance during the pursuit but not enough. The human vessel's superior speed made escape impossible. "Captain," reported, "the last ship is transmitting a surrender signal." Sarah considered this for exactly 3 seconds. Ignore it. They had their chance to surrender. "Aye, Captain." The final torpedo launch was almost anticlimactic. Captain's destroyer tried to maneuver away from the incoming weapon, but the result was never in doubt. The ship exploded just like the others. Sarah looked around at her bridge crew. "Damage report." "No damage, Captain. All systems operating normally." "Casualties?" "None, Captain." Sarah nodded with satisfaction. 3 enemy destroyers destroyed. 0 human losses. The engagement had proceeded exactly according to plan. "Signal Fleet Command. Tell them the test was successful. Human Q-ship tactics are effective against raiders." "Aye, Captain." Sarah stood up from her command chair and walked to the main viewing screen. Space around the Terra's Pride was now filled with debris from 3 destroyed ships. Hundreds of raiders were dead. The survivors would never threaten human commerce again. More importantly, word of this engagement would spread throughout the galaxy. Other species would learn that attacking human ships carried unexpected risks. "Set course for our next patrol area," Sarah ordered. "Let's see if anyone else wants to test our cargo." Admiral stood before the holographic display in the command center of the Terran fleet headquarters. Around him, dozens of officers worked at their stations, coordinating what would become known as the largest military response in human history. "Battle Group 7 is ready for deployment, sir," reported his aide commander. Studied the force composition on his display. 12 heavy cruisers, 4 fleet carriers with full fighter squadrons, the dreadnought Indomitable Will, over 15,000 personnel, enough firepower to level a small planet. "Sir," continued, "some of the staff are questioning whether this response is proportional. They only attacked 1 ship." turned to face his aide. The admiral was a veteran of humanity's expansion wars, where entire star systems had been fought over. He understood something that the younger officers were still learning. "Commander, they did not attack just one ship. They attacked the principle that human commerce moves freely through space. They attacked the idea that our merchants can travel without fear. If we respond weakly, every pirate gang in 3 systems will think humans are easy targets." Nodded slowly. "I understand, sir. What are our rules of engagement?" "Complete destruction of military assets, no exceptions." "And civilians, sir?" "Consider this carefully. Any civilians who surrender will be spared, but military personnel and installations are to be eliminated entirely. We want to send a very clear message to the galaxy." The order went out across human space within hours. Battle Group 7 departed from Earth orbit with coordinates for the system, where intelligence reported the main military base. The response speed shocked other galactic civilizations. Most species took weeks or months to organize military expeditions. The humans had assembled a major fleet and launched it in less than 12 hours. In the system, Command was still trying to understand what had happened to Admiral's raiding force. The 3 destroyers had simply vanished after attacking a human merchant ship. No distress signals, no debris fields, nothing. General, Supreme Commander of Forces, studied the intelligence reports with growing confusion. 3 of his best ships had disappeared while attacking what should have been easy prey. "Could the humans have allies?" asked his chief of staff. "Perhaps Moravian warships were nearby." Shook his head. "The Moravians have never interfered with raiding operations before, and our intelligence shows no military vessels in that sector." "Then what happened to?" Before could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the command center. Officers ran to their stations as warning lights flashed across the base. "Sir," the sensor operator called out. "Multiple contacts jumping into the system, large signatures." "How many ships?" 16, no 17 vessels, all military class." Stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The largest fleet he had ever assembled contained 8 ships. Someone had just brought more than twice that number into his home system. "Identification." "Unknown configuration, sir. Wait. They are broadcasting identification codes. Terran Fleet Battle Group 7. The words hit like a physical blow. The humans had responded to the loss of 1 merchant ship by sending an entire battle fleet. The escalation was beyond anything he had ever encountered. "Open communication channels," he ordered. "Perhaps we can negotiate." The main screen activated to show the bridge of a human warship. Admiral appeared, wearing a dark blue uniform covered with military decorations. His expression showed no emotion at all. "Forces," said in a calm voice, "I am Admiral of the Terran Fleet. You have committed acts of piracy against human vessels. Surrender immediately and your lives will be spared." Straightened his shoulders. "Admiral, I am General. Perhaps there has been a misunderstanding. We can discuss this situation like civilized beings." "There is no misunderstanding," replied. "Your forces attacked and attempted to board the merchant vessel Terra's Pride. This is an act of war. Surely we can reach some agreement, perhaps payment for damages." "The time for negotiation ended when you threatened human lives," interrupted. "You have 30 seconds to surrender unconditionally." Looked around his command center. His officers were watching him with expressions of fear and confusion. They had always been the ones making threats. They had always held the superior position. This reversal felt impossible. "And if we refuse?" asked. Smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Then you will discover why humans are not considered prey animals." The communication ended. Stared at the blank screen for several seconds before turning to his staff. "Battle stations," he ordered. "All ships prepare for combat." They had 8 destroyers and 2 heavy cruisers in the system. Their base was protected by orbital defense platforms and fighter squadrons. Against most enemies, it would have been more than adequate. But as watched his tactical display, he realized they were not facing most enemies. The human fleet moved with perfect coordination. Their ships formed attack formations that had never seen before. Each vessel took position with mathematical precision, creating overlapping fields of fire that covered every possible escape route. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "they are targeting our defense platforms first. Return fire all weapons." The base and fleet opened fire with everything they possessed. Plasma bolts and kinetic rounds filled space between the two forces. For a moment, hope that their combined firepower might damage the human ships. The human fleet absorbed the attack without slowing down. "Sir, their shields are not even flickering," the tactical officer reported in a shaking voice. Watched in horror as the human ships began their attack. The orbital defense platforms, which had protected the system for 50 years, vanished in seconds under precise torpedo strikes. Destroyers tried to engage the human cruisers and found themselves by weapons they could not even identify. The battle was not really a battle at all. It was a demonstration. Human tactics were unlike anything they had encountered. They did not engage in the ritual combat common among galactic species. There were no challenges to single combat, no attempts to disable rather than destroy, no mercy for defeated enemies. The humans fought like machines. Every shot was perfectly aimed. Every maneuver was calculated for maximum efficiency. They showed no emotion and accepted no surrender. "Sir," communication officer called out, "Captain N is requesting permission to surrender." "Granted, signal all ships to surrender immediately." The communication officer worked frantically at his station. "Sir, the humans are not responding to our surrender signals. They are continuing their attack." Realized with growing horror that the humans had no intention of accepting surrender from military personnel. They had announced their intentions clearly: complete destruction of military assets. "Evacuate the base," he ordered. "All civilian personnel to the escape pods." Around the command center, officers abandoned their stations and ran for the evacuation systems, but remained at his post, watching his entire military force being systematically destroyed. The last thing he saw was the dreadnought Indomitable while turning its main guns toward the command center. The massive weapons fired once. The military base, which had dominated the system for generations, disappeared in a flash of nuclear fire. Admiral watched the destruction from his flagship's bridge. "Status report," he requested. "All military assets destroyed, sir," his tactical officer reported. "No human casualties." "Excellent. Begin Phase 2. "Sir, we are going to visit every outpost in 3 star systems," explained. "This message needs to be delivered clearly." The emergency session of the Galactic Trade Consortium convened 3 days after the destruction of the last outpost. Representatives from 47 species gathered in the Great Assembly Hall on the neutral world of Mediation Prime. Ambassador sat at the human delegation table, watching the other representatives with calm interest. Around her, aliens whispered in dozens of languages about what had happened in space. "The humans destroyed everything," the representative was saying to his Moravian counterpart. 8 star systems, hundreds of installations, not one military vessel survived. "But they spared the civilians," the Moravian replied. "Colony ships and merchant vessels were allowed to leave safely." Still, the level of destruction was unprecedented. No species has ever responded so aggressively to a single piracy incident. Chancellor of the Confederation called the session to order. The elderly alien looked troubled as he addressed the assembly. We gather today to discuss the recent events involving the Terran species and the former syndicate. Before we begin formal discussions, Ambassador has requested to make a statement. Stood and walked to the central podium. She looked around at the assembled aliens, nodding the mixture of fear, curiosity, and respect in their expressions. Distinguished colleagues, she began, I am here to explain humanity's recent actions and to clarify our position regarding galactic commerce and security. They made a fundamental miscalculation when they attacked our vessel Terra's Pride. They assumed that humans would respond like other species they had encountered. They expected us to accept their aggression as the cost of doing business in space. Paused, letting her words sink in. They were wrong. Humanity does not accept piracy as inevitable. We do not pay tribute to raiders. We do not allow criminals to threaten our citizens without consequence. The representative raised a tentacle. Ambassador, surely there were less violent ways to resolve this situation. Diplomatic protests, economic sanctions, traditional methods of dispute resolution. Turned to face the scholarly alien. Representative, how long has your species been paying tribute to the? That was a private arrangement. 40 years, said firmly. 40 years of tribute payments, 40 years of lost cargo, 40 years of accepting that your merchants could be robbed at will. How did diplomatic protests work for you? Tentacles curled in embarrassment. Around the hall, other representatives shifted uncomfortably, had identified the central truth that no one wanted to discuss. They existed because civilized species chose to accommodate them rather than eliminate them, continued. You treated piracy as a natural disaster instead of a criminal enterprise that could be stopped. But the scale of your response, began the Moravian delegate, was proportional to the threat, interrupted. They had raided hundreds of vessels. They had killed thousands of innocent merchants and traders. They had terrorized entire star systems for decades. We simply ended their ability to continue these crimes. Chancellor spoke up. Ambassador, many of us are concerned about the precedent this sets. If every species responds to piracy with such overwhelming force, then piracy will cease to exist, replied, which is exactly the point. The hall fell silent, could see that the assembled representatives were struggling to understand humanity's approach to the problem. For generations, they had accepted a certain level of criminal activity as unavoidable. I understand your confusion, said more gently. Humans view galactic security differently than most species. We believe that commerce should be protected, not merely tolerated. We believe that criminals should face consequences, not accommodation. What about proportional response? Asked the Chancellor. Surely 3 destroyed ships did not justify the elimination of an entire military force. Smiled coldly. Chancellor, they did not just attack one human ship. They attacked the principle that human merchants can travel safely through space. Our response was designed to ensure that no other criminal organization makes the same mistake. And if other species choose to test your resolve, asked a representative did not recognize. Then they will receive the same education they did, replied without hesitation. Humanity is not interested in conquest or expansion, but we will defend our interests with whatever force is necessary. She returned to her seat as the hall erupted in quiet discussions, could hear fragments of conversation in multiple languages. The word dangerous appeared frequently. Over the following weeks, the effects of humanity's actions spread throughout known space. Pirate organizations that had operated freely for generations began avoiding any system with human presence. Criminal groups that had preyed on weak merchant vessels suddenly found themselves wondering which ships might be disguised warships. Captain Sarah, now commanding a new Q-ship called the Distant Thunder, patrolled the trade routes between human and alien space. Her mission parameters had expanded significantly since the incident. "Captain," her communications officer reported, "we are receiving a distress signal from a Moravian freighter. They report being pursued by unknown raiders." Sarah looked at her tactical display. Time to intercept. 18 minutes at maximum speed. "Do it." The distant thunder accelerated toward the distress signal. As they approached the location, Sarah's sensors detected two ships pursuing a lone freighter. The attacking vessels broke off their pursuit the moment they detected the human warship's approach. "Captain," the sensor operator reported, "the raiders are transmitting a message." "Let me hear it." A frightened alien voice came through the speakers. "Human vessel, we are leaving immediately. We did not know this was your territory. Please do not pursue." Sarah smiled. "Inform them that all civilized space is human territory now, then let them go." The pirate ships jumped to hyperspace within seconds. The Moravian freighter transmitted its grateful thanks and continued on its journey. All across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. The mere presence of human vessels was enough to deter most criminal activity. Those few groups that still attempted raids found themselves facing response fleets that made the destruction look restrained. Ambassador received daily reports about these developments from her office at the Galactic Trade Consortium headquarters. Trade route security had improved by 800% in the months following the elimination. Piracy incidents had dropped to their lowest levels in recorded history. More importantly, several species had quietly approached human diplomats about mutual defense agreements. The peaceful Moravians wanted protection for their merchant fleets. The scholarly requested human security advisors. Even the proud had opened discussions about joint anti-piracy operations. Was reviewing the latest security reports when her aide announced a visitor. Representative of the entered her office, looking nervous. "Ambassador," the alien scholar said, "I wanted to thank you personally for what your species has done." "Oh." "Our merchant fleet has not lost a single ship to piracy in 4 months. Our traders are reporting record profits because they no longer need to budget for tribute payments. Our people feel safe traveling between worlds for the first time in generations." Nodded. "We are pleased to hear that, Representative." "There is something else," continued. "My government has authorized me to ask if humans would be willing to establish a permanent security presence in our space. We are prepared to offer very generous terms." "I will pass your request to the appropriate authorities," replied, "though I suspect they will be interested." After the representative left, stood at her office window looking out at the busy spaceport below. Ships from dozens of species moved through the traffic patterns, carrying goods and passengers between worlds. All of them traveled without fear of attack. All of them knew that human warships patrolled the major trade routes. All of them understood the new reality of galactic civilization. His communication console chimed with an incoming message from Earth. Admiral's face appeared on the screen. "Ambassador, I wanted to update you on our latest patrol reports." "Go ahead, Admiral." "We have not encountered a single piracy incident in human space for 6 weeks. Our Q-ships are reporting that most criminal organizations are actively avoiding any contact with human vessels." "Excellent news." "There is more. We have received formal requests for security partnerships from 18 different species. It seems that everyone wants human protection for their trade routes." Smiled. "The Terran incident continues to pay dividends." "Indeed, there is one final item you should know about." "Yes." "We intercepted a communication from the remnants of the leadership. They were warning other pirate groups about humans. The message was quite clear. Attacking human ships results in complete extinction." Laughed quietly. "Fear is indeed the foundation of peace." "The galaxy is learning that humans are not prey," Admiral agreed, "and the lesson is spreading." After the call ended, returned to her window. In the distance, she could see a human cargo hauler departing for the outer systems. No one would threaten that ship. No one would demand tribute. No one would mistake human merchants for easy targets. The galaxy had learned a very simple lesson. Humans protected what was theirs, and what was theirs now included the safety of civilized space itself. The age of piracy was over. The age of human protection had begun.